The process of buying real estate can be expensive, it can be slow, and it's prone to errors occasionally. It also hasn't been renovated or improved upon for a very long time. Meanwhile, increasingly, we can see the technology that can make the whole thing virtually instantaneous and significantly cheaper. We're not talking about eliminating the services of a real estate agent or a solicitor. We're just talking about a new process that now can be achieved using technology that is very much ready to go. Today on this one, I'm talking to John Alcock, who's going to be sharing with us how he's working through the process of getting a property to the market, which will be sold and settled entirely on Bitcoin. It's going to be a really interesting discussion. If you hate crypto or you love it, it doesn't matter. This is a very important video to watch if you want to understand how the future of finance is already here. If you like this video, please give it a like. Make sure that you subscribe if you want to hear more of this sort of stuff. Let's get started. New Zealand's first successful Bitcoin property transaction. Let's talk about it. So what is the strategy? Tell us about what you plan on doing.
So my parents are looking at moving out of their house. It's been the family home for 45 years, something like that. 1973, I think my dad purchased it back then. And my mum's been involved with me in Bitcoin for quite some time. She uses it for all her daily expenses and things now, exactly like I do. But it's come time for them to downsize and move out of that house. It's just the old sort of story in New Zealand. You get two very old people using one room in an enormous house. And my parents need to move to a more manageable place that's easier for them to sort of look after, that has less costs, because a big property in Riviera, the fourth most expensive street in the country, obviously has huge rates attached to it, as well as the huge maintenance of that kind of property in that area. Like, yes, it's expensive. It's about 25, 30 grand a year just in rates and maintenance if you sort of spread it out. It's huge. We've got to repaint the pool. You've got to filter the pool. That's always ongoing costs. Changing the central heating. Or the walls where we've got our heights all measured up the side, like it needs a new coat of paint.
Yeah.
And it's not with my parents spending a few million doing that, which is what you'd have to do. You have to spend a few million to do that, and you could make it an amazing property with fantastic views all the way down the harbour. Really, on the right side of the hill too, on the upside of the hill. Yeah. So nobody ever can build you out on that view either. Yeah. It's not worth them spending that money because they wouldn't get their return on investment. They're much better off keeping the funds, extracting the funds from the house and that, which has no debt at all, extracting all those funds till they decide what they want to do with it.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like, I think a lot of people will look at their property in two ways, right? It's a home, it's a place, it's a container for families, it's a shelter, it's a consumer good.
Yep.
But then the other part of it is that it's an asset. It's a financialized asset, which has been the recipient of phenomenal capital gains over time. A lot of that, in my view, is probably artificial. It's a function of how the financial system works in New Zealand, the economy with a housing market bolted on, and it will be much better deployed potentially as well, right? If they could separate those two functions, sell the property. They'll need to buy something which is smaller, fit for purpose. But if they want to do, they could even rent. It doesn't really matter, right?
That's right.
It's because we all die at some stage. But then what they're doing is they could potentially separate the surplus equity they don't need right now, and they could invest it elsewhere.
Disposing of that asset without having to put them in risky situations of New Zealand dollars where they feel forced to make rushed, hasty decisions or give it all to their wealth manager who produces dubious results.
Sure.
I mean, I've moved away from them. I moved to one of your other podcast guests, Always Ethical, because they do a much better job and they invest in an ethical way that I really approve of.
Yeah.
So that's what I've done. I think my mum's done that as well.
Yeah.
But those kind of assets, we don't want to be forced into doing anything.
It doesn't seem right that they have to engage with that whole scene of where do I invest this, and dealing with probability that they might lose money or they might observe the decline in the value of their portfolio just because to preserve the purchasing power, they have to place it at risk.
They have to. If they live in New Zealand dollars, the loss is guaranteed.
Which is tragic.
It is tragic for everybody that is not heavily invested and financially savvy. And a lot of people call for more financial education of the population in general, but that's actually not solving the problem. You can be really educated and you still have to take on risk. And what you should be able to do is not be involved in that at all. If you're a builder, doctor, dentist, whatever, you don't need to also be a financial advisor. Your savings should be safe, but they're not. They're being destroyed by the government. So and not just our government either. Like the US dollar affects our economy.
You want to talk me through how that works?
Yeah. So if the US devalues their currency, but they're buying products from us, then our New Zealand dollar will buy more of the US dollars. But if we go the other way around, it's going to make our products a lot more expensive. And you get this importers-exporters problem that we have, the little butting up against each other. We want to have our trade deficit, our balance of trade deficit, relatively neutral because we need to import a lot of stuff. And we want our New Zealand dollars to be worth something in the overseas market. But it's not up to us entirely. It is up to other countries and what their governments are doing. You buy stuff from China, their currency is not worth very much, so we can buy quite a lot. We feel quite rich in China. That's slowly reversing. If all our manufacturing is there and we have to import everything, then our currency will get less valuable compared to the Chinese one, and we'll be able to buy less and less from them.
Yes.
So that's not great, but we don't have control of what the CCP does or what the Republicans or Democrats do in America or what happens in the EU and Europe and the UK. We have no control over their governments. The only way we're getting around that is Bitcoin, because it's global and has zero government control.
Yeah.
So that is the most reasonable way to do things. And because I'm heavily invested in cryptocurrency in itself and blockchain technology from a philosophical point, I've seen this opportunity pop up. My mum comes and said, "Oh, we're looking at selling the house." So, well, that's great. Let's see if we can find a real estate agent that's willing to do this entirely in Bitcoin. Yeah. And let's work through that process and use this as the use case of we can do this and I can show you that we can do it. I never ask anyone to believe anything on faith. It is always evidence-based. So I set you up with Wirex accounts and I show you how to buy Bitcoin, spend Bitcoin, and you have to prove it to yourself. You don't have to believe me. I will just show you.
How does it work right now in terms of the mechanics? So obviously we would engage a real estate agent, we market the property, a buyer comes along, an offer is made, it's accepted. Talk me through the movement of money and how that works currently in terms of changing the title and mortgages and all that sort of stuff.
You need to have a deposit for the real estate agents, which they spend in your marketing budget and sort of their commission things as well. That's where that comes out of there. So they need to have it, be able to have and hold some kind of cryptocurrency, whether that's in a private wallet that they can only access, or that is part of a larger business wallet, a multi-signatory wallet, which is now possible. I have one for my business, and in fact, I'm going to use it for all of my businesses. Okay. There's a couple of companies in New Zealand. I think you mentioned one earlier, but
Lightning Pay New Zealand.
Lightning Pay, that's the one. The one that I've had interactions with because my clients are going to use them is called PIN, Pay It Now, and they use the back end is from a company called Immersive, run by Jerome Farrow.
Oh yeah. If
you can get him on, he'd be interested to talk to.
Yes.
I beta tested his app when it first came out a few years ago. I'm really glad to see that we've got a Kiwi business involved in a MasterCard relationship that can facilitate these transactional payments in cryptocurrency. That's amazing. That's the direction we should be going in.
Yes. Yeah.
So the real estate agent needs to be able to hold that deposit. We need to have a conveyancing lawyer in place in the middle. So they will have a trust account and the seller will pay the money to their trust account first. I think it requires at least 10 days minimum. And then that money will be paid out to, in this case, our family trust account as the owner of the property when it's transferred.
A little bit of the purchase price, once the price is agreed, gets paid to the trust account, commission taken out, marketing costs taken out, and then the balance of the money comes through on settlement date, again, via Bitcoin is the idea. And what would happen, like we'll for the sake of just keeping this simple, we'll assume there's no mortgage that's going to be required, because that, unfortunately, that's where things get quite complicated.
Except because I have the contacts at Wirex to facilitate these transactions, if somebody does have a mortgage, they will facilitate the transfer of Bitcoin to New Zealand dollars straight into their mortgage account. So I can do that now.
Oh, if the purchaser needed a mortgage?
That's right. If the purchaser needed a mortgage to buy the house and they needed a collateral to do that, they could either use their Bitcoin assets as collateral, which hasn't been done in New Zealand, but is available in Australia. So there's precedent for that.
There's definitely movements happening in the US where they're paving the way. Yeah, interesting.
Yep. So it becomes like every other financial instrument. It becomes very normalized. But also, my private banker or Wirex will just deposit the money in your account if you want to. I don't know why you'd want to do that, because New Zealand dollars are less valuable than Bitcoin.
That's right.
But look, that's your transactions, it's your property, it's your money. You do what you want with it. So I can help facilitate all those transactions now. The trust accounts, they maybe get a bit complicated, but there are ways and means to solve this. But because it's all so new, we do have to do it very slowly, very carefully. I require our seller to be on the Wirex platform. And the reason for that is know your customer KYC compliance.
Right.
We need to be able to do enhanced due diligence, EDD, on those clients who want to transfer us Bitcoin, because there is a significant money laundering risk involved in this transaction, where people may have acquired funds, resources, Bitcoin, whatever, in some nasty manner.
So to fulfill obligations under those bits of legislation, you have to go over and above to make sure that you've demonstrated where that money came from. And if it was any dodginess going on, that's what flushes out the process. Okay.
And we should be able to see that, because once they introduce funds to the Bitcoin blockchain, that's now all public.
Sure. So it becomes a little bit of an easier exercise, actually, doesn't it?
It actually makes compliance really easy.
Right.
And I kind of hope that by proving this transaction works, compliance is an enormous cost to businesses. It's staggeringly enormous. I think in 2021, I do have the white paper at home somewhere, but this is from the head of the ACAMS, the Association of Certified Anti-Money Laundering Specialists globally, the largest global organization for anti-financial crime. And this comes from the guy who basically started this in Australia. And I've seen him speak multiple times, have lots of interactions. We were on the working group board together. And he sent me an article in 2021. It's got a lot worse since then, but it's approximately 100 to 1. To stop $1 of financial crime, you have to spend $100 to do it.
It's nuts.
It's crazy. It's such a drag on everything, but it is also necessary, because there's a lot of nasty people doing a lot of nasty things. But now that we've got that framework, how can we take a risk-based approach and reduce our risk? The answer is Bitcoin. The answer is cryptocurrency in the blockchain. Because now, instead of having to rely on information provided by solicitors or individuals who may or may not have address or be in New Zealand that you can't track through various banks, trusts, offshore companies.
You can forge documents still.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And with AI, it makes it really easy.
Yeah.
How do you get around that? You move to a zero trust system. Bitcoin is an example. And then everything is on chain. And you can see it all. And then you can start to pull those threads together to see where people are doing things that they shouldn't be doing, without, this comes back to our crime discussion, where they're damaging other people's individual property rights. That's the important part. Yeah. So I need the buyer to be on Wirex, so they've got proper KYC, so that I feel more secure in this transaction. Can you break
down the Wirex platform a little bit more, just for people that don't understand how that works?
Wirex is a company that I was introduced to 2023, I think, and they started fairly soon before then. I think they actually might have been in 2023 as well. And they have partnerships with Visa and MasterCard, so that's the two largest payment processors on the planet. And they provide a custodial exchange service. What they are transforming into is a custodial banking service. So I do pretty much all of my transactions with them now. I do not hold all of my cryptocurrency with them. I hold that in private cold wallets, which is what you should actually be doing. But I keep my float with Wirex. So I've got money to spend, and that's how I spend my money.
Yeah.
If you're getting into crypto, that's where I would start, because it makes it a little bit less complicated, and there's a little bit of a safety barrier, because you can reset your passwords, you can get your keys back. There's customer service to do that kind of activity. So it's not as harsh as if you had your own cold wallet and you forgot the keys.
Got it. So you could effectively say, whether it's $5,000, $10,000 or more, or whatever worth of Bitcoin, you would send it to Wirex into an address, which effectively is the pool of capital that's drawn upon, so that when you use your Wirex credit card, it's effectively doing an exchange from Bitcoin into the currency that you wanted to use it through, right?
So when we get very technical about this, which I kind of like, I'm never touching New Zealand dollars. What I'm doing is loaning, much as you would from a bank or anything else. I am loaning New Zealand dollars from Visa, and I am paying them back in Bitcoin. So I never, ever go through New Zealand dollars. So that's not a taxable activity.
Right.
Because I haven't done anything.
So you're actually spending lent money.
Yes.
Okay.
I am spending lent money, and that is not taxable.
That's right.
Because that's the way that accounting works. I'm spending lent money, but I'm actually, all my transactions are in Bitcoin. So when I go and look for for coffee, I'm looking at 0.000048, whatever Bitcoin, which is roughly $6-7. But Visa is loaning me that money, and at a later date, they take the Bitcoin from my account because that's their partnership.
Got it.
So it's not a taxable activity. And I've had this argument. I kind of want the IRD to sue me, and I probably shouldn't say it online, but I kind of do. Because I think this is how we progress.
Punishment, John.
Bring it on. Bring it on. I'd love to have that conversation with the IRD.
Okay.
I mean, I see them every year at the conference. It's not like I don't tell them exactly what I'm doing. They know what I'm doing in a tacit sort of way. I would quite like to see, and this is the other compliance guys as well. We want to see a test case to show how the compliance is working, to show how it is actually approaching this. But it's very expensive. It's like, well, sue me then. Come on, like let's actually sit down and work this out. Get your lawyers out. I'm already a lawyer. Pretty sure I'm smarter than you. Let's do this. I've had the argument with ChatGPT as well, which I won.
Yeah.
It's like, but it's not actually a taxable activity. And part of the reason for this is the government is artificially increasing the value of my Bitcoin by devaluing the New Zealand dollar. So go and talk to Chloe Swarbrick. She wants capital gains tax. It's like, but you're causing the capital gains.
Exactly.
So I don't, that's a perverse incentive for the government to inflate the value of our assets so they can extract more money.
Conflict of interest, isn't it?
It's a conflict of interest.
Absolutely.
It's a conflict of interest.
Should be disclosed.
It should be.
Yeah.
It really should be. These numbers need to be disclosed. So if we can sort of do this proof of concept, I'm quite happy to have these discussions with the government, whether they sue me or not. I'm not really worried, but that would be a good way to get a test case. It'd be a fantastic way for us all to think through these problems and how this is going to work. It would do everybody a favor.
Yeah.
Everybody a favor. Everybody can learn from this. And we've already seen a Supreme Court decision in Australia declaring Bitcoin, that the government in Australia misclassified Bitcoin as an asset when it actually should be a currency. So we've got precedent starting to happen with this. I know I can transact in it. If we can do a property transaction, and in fact, Bailey's is hosting an event next Wednesday for blockchain in New Zealand in town. They're hosting an event. We've got the dates. What's that? The 23rd? 23rd of July, I think we're in. Bailey's is hosting that. So there is interest from the real estate agents to sort of move in this direction. And if we can use this as a use case, as an opportunity to precisely match the way that you do that transaction in New Zealand dollars, that gives us now the proof of concept for everyone in New Zealand to be able to deal with things like their property in a on-chain sort of fashion.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to tick all those compliance boxes, and having been a compliance officer, I'm actually well positioned to do that. And I have these discussions in Wellington in November every year with all of the government agents, the banks, everybody. I have these discussions every year. So we can pull from that knowledge and data pool. It's like, yeah, we can do this transaction. There's a way to do it. There's issues around the definition of legal tender.
Okay, that's a phrase that I think a lot of people might be familiar with, but what does it actually mean in practice?
It basically means the central fiat currency monitored by the Reserve Bank. So it's New Zealand dollars, but that includes all electronic transactions, notes, coins, the whole lot. That is generally what is defined as currency. And I think that's the real estate. I can't quote the legislation, but that's the definition of currency.
Yeah.
And the reason why that is important is because property transactions must be full and final settled on the same day in an irrevocable way.
Right.
And so that's been in New Zealand dollars in the past because that's just the tool that we had to work with.
Yeah.
And so the banks would confirm the transaction. The lawyer would release the funds to the seller's wallet, the seller's bank account, and the proper transaction would take place. You have to use an escrow system.
Legal tender is important because it has to be an irrevocable transaction.
Yes.
And the law will support the New Zealand dollar, but nobody has used Bitcoin yet.
Which is also an irrevocable transaction.
Cryptograph, like from a cryptographical.
Yes.
Cryptographical?
Yep.
From a cryptographic way.
That's right.
Okay.
If I sent you $5 worth of Bitcoin, approximately, whatever that is. Once I have pressed confirm on that button, that transaction is now on the blockchain and is permanent and irrevocable. So Bitcoin meets those standards under the current legislation. And it is a fun sort of little gray area to play in. And what I'm hoping is that it gets some better law coming out of this around these new cryptocurrencies. I'd love to see that.
Right. This is interesting, right? So that finality of that payment, right? That is made on Bitcoin, it's final. It can't be reversed because it's impossible. It's a cryptographic.
It's literally impossible. Yep.
So it's not like it supersedes law in terms of authority, but it supersedes law just as a matter of fact, because it's cryptography. And
yes.
You can't actually make it submit to some sort of human construct like law.
That's right. So we're just pulling this up quickly so I say the right thing. This is the Financial Markets Authority, and this is from the Auckland District Law Society in reference to Real Estate Institute of New Zealand, so the governing body for all real estate agents. And the question that we're talking about is section 1, so definitions 1.19. And what we're looking at is cleared funds. So the property transaction has to be done in cleared funds. And that means an electronic transfer of funds that has been made strictly in accordance with the requirements set out in the property law style guidelines. So there's the New Zealand Law Society Property Law Guidelines. Requires cleared funds. Right. And cleared funds have to be funds originating from a bank system. A same-day cleared payment is a payment to the nominated bank account of another party that cannot be revoked, dishonored, or reversed. Bitcoin meets those criteria. So,
except the fact that it's not a bank account.
Well, it is sort of.
Okay.
What's the difference between a bank account and a cryptocurrency wallet?
Well, one's a carrier of the thing, and the other one is like it's inverted, isn't it?
Yes. So we're talking about the difference between custodial and non-custodial. So the custodial is like the container where the bank is providing that service and holding your funds sort of in escrow for you. Sure. With the whole eyes. That's the way bank accounts work now. So if you held it in a private wallet, a custodial wallet, there's no effective difference. And if you held it in a custodial wallet with Wirex, for example.
So the key is it has to be a custodial wallet rather than in your own self-custody.
Ideally, yes, because then all the KYC is done. Yeah. If it's in your own sort of private wallet, you can do that transaction, right. And it would still be irrevocable as well.
Right.
Like you could, once you press the confirm button, it's gone done. So it meets those criteria.
But a custodial wallet, and forgive us if this is sounding a little bit geeky and technical, but the Wirex system, this is why you really want to use that, because it has the functionality, but it's also a custodial service. So yes. It effectively emulates
banking system.
Banking system.
That's what we're looking for.
I see.
The biggest problem that cryptocurrency sort of has is the way that we deal with funds. And the closer we can replicate the current systems presently, just as a bridge to get us into that space.
Got it.
Then we're good. That's why I have a Visa crypto credit card.
Got it.
It's a bridge.
It is a bridge. It's like Web 2.5, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it's Web 2.5. So in other words, it's taking the best out of, an internet banking experience and the best of decentralized finance, and it's finding a solution right in between it.
And helping me facilitate the transactions.
Nice.
For which I pay the normal Visa pay wave charge. I have no problem with Visa making money from this. They're providing a valuable service to me.
It's your choice, and that's what you've chosen. So right now, the money would come into the solicitor's trust account on the day of settlement, and then they would, again, in the simple example where there's no mortgage being provided, they would register, or they would update the title.
Yes.
To show the new owners of the property on the title, and then they would release the funds effectively simultaneous with the vendor, right? So with this, using digital rails, using Bitcoin now, it's not a big deal because they'll be able to access the money just like they would if it was a trust account, except it'll be like some form of a multi-signature Wirex account.
It doesn't need to be.
Okay.
I think in the future, that's the way that lawyers with trust accounts should potentially move into operating.
Best practice.
Is sort of probably best practice. But if they just held it in their private wallet, it's effectively the same thing because all of those transactions are public.
Yeah.
And if they're all on the Wirex platform, and you make arrangements beforehand because we're dealing with unusual large transactions now. So there's the extra compliance around that. So all I have to do is let them know that this transaction is going to occur between these wallets. and it will be effectively instant. There will be no bank fees because Wirex does not charge any transfer fees within its ecosystem. And so once the lawyer is satisfied that the property has been transferred purposely, it is instantaneous for them to transfer from their wallet to our wallet.
By the way, Wirex, if you're listening or watching, you're most welcome to pay a small fee for this promotion.
I have said that to them. I've invited them to come and join us at the police conference at the end of the year as well. But you could use any sort of cryptocurrency service that is providing a similar service.
Yeah. Okay. When was the big NFT explosion? Was that in
2020?
2020, 2021?
Over COVID?
Yep, over COVID. So digital JPEG monkeys.
Yep.
Selling for ridiculous amounts of money. And just another example of digital scarcity. And non-fungible just means that one is not exactly the same as another.
That's right.
Dollars are fungible. One New Zealand dollar is exactly the same as another New Zealand dollar. But a non-fungible dollar or a non-fungible token is different. So as it relates to this sort of transaction, just break down how a non-fungible token, something that represents something else, which is unique, how does that work in this Bitcoin transaction for a property?
So just like at the moment, you've got a deed for a property that's registered with Land Information New Zealand.
As a property title, yeah.
As a property title, that's where it is. What we need to do is convert that to an NFT. And so you've got the monkey pictures and all those kind of things, but there's no reason you can't include that as the whole deed for that property as its own individualized non-fungible token. And then from there, you can, of course, deal with it any way you want. You can split parts of that off if you want to do a subdivision or something later. But it reduces the administrative burden of LINs to manage all of this data all of the time. And it also allows our transactions with each other to be much faster and permanent and irrevocable. If I transferred that NFT to you, you own that now. And within that NFT, we can then start looking at particularly the Ethereum blockchain, and particularly around smart contracts. So the way I see this happening in the next few years, outside of this transaction that I'm trying to do, but as a proof of concept for that, is that if you and I wanted to trade properties, what we could do is have a smart contract that says this NFT will be transferred automatically when these conditions are met, which are the conditions of sale and purchase that your conveyancing law is going to write up. And then when those funds are being received, it just transfers.
I've heard of it's like an escrow type concept using smart contracts. It's on the Solana network. So this person I was speaking to, he was developing something that was like that. It was to be used for any transaction where a smart contract was effectively being created. And a smart contract is basically just a computer code, right? Like if thens hanging in the internet. And so if you poke money into it under these certain conditions, it will do a certain function, like spit out a title or release money to the next stage. And so effectively it performs the function of, I guess, what a conveyancer would do.
It does. Right? And it also helps us resolve property disputes that may arise from those transactions.
Sure.
You go to court now as a result of this. It's not a he said, she said, this is how I feel about the situation, which lawyer can make the best argument. It becomes about the facts.
Code is law.
That's right. And you can see the transaction. Oh, you didn't pay the entire amount in Bitcoin. Okay, well, that's why the property hasn't transferred, because you failed to meet the requirements that you agreed to in the contract you made with the seller.
That's profound. It's profoundly simple.
Right? Oh, yeah. It's going to reduce our...
Everybody, like, I know there's a bit of terminology here, and I certainly, like, forgive me if it sounds like I'm coming across smart. I'm not. I've heard of these terms before, and I've seen them applied in different, more geeky spaces. And so I can kind of understand what you're saying. And I know that people listening for the first time hearing this might be a bit foreign. Would the buyer and the seller of this property need to know any of these details, and who would be the individual who would orchestrate this? Because typically, I guess this is where a real estate agent comes in, right? Who will be explaining this mechanism to the actual vendor, for example? Like in this case with you, it's your parents. And so it's a little bit more nuanced, right? But in the future, let's say there was a smart contract, NFTs, there was a digital currency that was settling everything, and everything was instantaneously, like we've talked about so far. But who is working with the actual vendors, explaining this to them, or is it even required? Because even today, it's not really explained properly to vendors, in my view.
No, I don't. I agree. I don't think it is. I mean, ideally, this is the job of the real estate agents, and whichever agents that we intend to go with, I intend to fully educate them about this process. And I'm more than happy for them to go and use it on any other property they want to after we've done this proof of concept. This is a philosophical thing to me, which is, there happens to be an opportunity where I can explore this area. And if we can get this to work, then they're going to be the biggest real estate agent in cryptocurrency in New Zealand. It's going to be massive for their profile. It'll be massive for the conveyancing lawyer's profile. You're still going to need real estate agents. Somebody has to show the house. Somebody has to stage the house, has to get it ready, has to do negotiations. All of that still has to happen. The only thing that we're digitizing is just the actual transaction.
Which is happening in the analog world right now, with bits of paper, sometimes facsimiles, I think, probably.
Oh, still. I can't believe fax machines still exist, but they do.
Yeah. Who does this disrupt? Probably an obvious question, but so far what I'm hearing is it doesn't disrupt the real estate agent model yet.
I don't think so. People already buy and sell properties on TradeMe without real estate agents. So we've already got that situation. And I think that's appropriate for houses that are of lesser value. And I have a sneaking suspicion the reason why the average house price is close to $1 million is because it's not worth the real estate agent's time to sell anything less than that. They need their commission. They've got to get paid for their work too. So no problem at all with. So potentially for lower value properties, it means we can now just deal peer-to-peer in a way that's very easy to show transparently. That's very easy for the courts if anything happens after that, because it will. People have arguments over property all the time. And I think it might replace conveyancing lawyers, but I think they'll end up being more in the realms of arguing and negotiating the settlement process rather than doing like administrative grunt work.
Sure.
So I think it's going to actually lower administrative burden for the real estate agents and the lawyers if you engage those services, which you probably should. I still think that's a good idea.
The more for the advice now.
That's right.
Rather than the administrative function that they do now.
Yep. Because we can outsource the administrative function to computers because that's what they're really good at.
Yeah. So
let's be the tool using species and outsource our labor and things to computers to deal with administrative burden so that we don't have to.
Yeah.
We've got to reduce this administrative burden. This is the cost of all of this going on. And hopefully this will mean that real estate agent fees come down, conveyancing lawyer fees come down, and that knowledge of the deep knowledge of the law and the compliance and the way that rules and regulations work in New Zealand has been built up over hundreds of years of court precedent. That's where we get the rules and regulations from. It's been built from that precedent. Yeah. And what this allows us to do is to consider all of that precedent, act in appropriate, honorable, and trustworthy ways, and reduce that administrative burden off the parties involved.
Got it.
I think that's where we're going. We're becoming more efficient is what we're doing with this. And if I can make the whole transaction work, it's not about me. I won't get anything out of this, and I don't really care, actually, but I think it is better for everybody if we have these systems available. I'd love to do it first. It's been tried in 2018. I can't remember. Can't quote me on who it was. It's also been tried sort of last year, 2024, 2025. There's a Ray White real estate agent attempted to sell a house in Bitcoin. It fell through. We don't quite know why. So I want to see what those issues were. And given my compliance and legal background, I'm 100% sure that I can negotiate my ways around the little bits that we've got. But it has to match a cash transaction. There's just no way around that. We have to comply with the legislation and the rules and everything around that. We have to.
So there's a little bit of duct tape and string tying this together initially until the rest of the system, including the legal system, actually catches up.
That's right.
But I guess what you're doing is you're blazing a trail here for others to follow. And potentially, I guess some people listening might go, well, heck, I want to reach out to you, John, and I can productize this. I want to build on this. I want to work with you to do that. Would you be open to collaborating with someone to do that?
If somebody came to me with a decent offer to do that, I'd be interested in that. My only sort of query is I don't really want to exploit the intellectual property laws in such a way that it prevents other people from using the system.
Yeah, exactly.
I would rather not make anything out of it, but allow everybody else to use that.
Open source it.
Open source it.
Yeah.
And honestly, since everything is public anyway,
Yeah, exactly.
like that advantage for the real estate agent that does this transaction and the lawyer is going to be a short head start because other people will be able to replicate that fairly easily. And
yeah,
that's what I would rather happen.
Yeah. We're actually seeing this everywhere, right? Like I'm seeing this right now in the investment space with some investment advisors adopting Bitcoin into their model and completely changing their business model to be a Bitcoin business.
Do you do that?
I am.
Nice.
Yes. And that what I think that's going to do is it's going to create like a moat because right now people still feel like criminals use it. It's a scam. It's a bubble. It's tulips. It's all that sort of stuff.
Let's touch on that real quick. So what percentage of Bitcoin globally, of the $2 trillion market cap, do you think is used for illicit activity today?
I have no idea.
4%.
4%.
4%. Where is all the money laundering? US dollars. Almost 96% of it is US dollars, is fiat currency. That's where the money laundering is because it's hard to track, it's hard to trace, it's anonymous, it's fungible. It meets all the requirements for I'm doing something naughty.
That's right. Well, it's easier to roll up a 20 than it is a Bitcoin, right?
Yep. Much easier. And it's not tracked if you deal in cash. Yeah. So the IRD comes after all the tradies doing cashies. It's like, okay, can we all just use a system that is a bit transparent, a bit open, that everybody can just use and well, they don't even need trust. Because it's zero trust.
Certified. Yeah.
It's all verified.
Code is law.
Yep.
We're trusting math. If you can trust mathematics, well, and if you can't, probably have bigger issues.
Mathematics is the universal language.
Yeah.
Everything eventually, we use math as our language to interpret universe and physics and the rest of it. This is a bit more to philosophy. But math is the universal language that underpins everything else. Everything comes down to some kind of number at some point, and you can quantify it all in that fashion. So if we can move to a system where transactions have less friction, you notice the banks in New Zealand have recently just done instant same-day transactions. It's because they're using 40-year-old technology on the SWIFT banking system. And I heard it from a business analyst at one of the banks. They don't have technicians that understand how the system works. So when it breaks, they can't fix it. We are now at that point where the systems are so old and so clunky and have so many bandages on them, they just don't work anymore.
And people aren't even worried about systemic failure. Blows me away.
It's happening. We're watching it happen right now. And I think they're all going to move to XRP. That's my prediction at the moment. I would say that they're very likely to do that. I think that's what Ripple is doing with the SEC in the US and what they're sort of doing with the Trump administration as well. And while he might hold some Bitcoin, I reckon he's going to start using XRP for transactions. And that's the most likely new system that we'll be moving to. And again, that's all on chain. And XRP is fast and it is efficient and it is cheap. That's fantastic for transactional currency. It really reduces those friction points that allow us to trade. And so if we can trade more efficiently with each other, we can be more productive with each other and we can stop wasting time and actually get on with the things we want to do.
And that's what technology should do. It should make things faster and better, cheaper.
You hit on the right point there. But the first thing is speed. Everything is about speed. And if you look at game theory and you look at warfare, the side that wins is the one that has the speed to deploy the force. Sure. That's the way. Go and read The Art of War. That's what Sun Tzu talks about. You need to have the speed to be able to deploy, because the speed allows you to pick the location of where you're going to have the fight.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah.
Yep. The speed allows you to do that. Well, exactly. The Germans did it. The Romans did it. Everybody's done it. Everybody tries to make things faster. That's where the chariot comes from, rather than infantry. It's faster. You can deploy force better in ways. You can pick the location that you have those battles. And if we move to a blockchain-based currency, not only will those battles become incredibly transparent to everybody, nobody's going to be allowed to lie or be corrupt in their dealings or act in bad faith, because you'll just be able to go, there's the transaction.
That's right. And I guess going back to this property transaction, the likelihood that it's going to go through the way you're imagining it?
North of 95%.
Perfect.
If we find a keen, well, actually, all the real estate agents have been very keen. So if we can find the right agents to get on board with this and sort of help facilitate this transaction, and honestly, they've all been really great so far. It requires some buy-in from the owners because they are potentially taking a bit of risk in their real estate licenses. So we have to make sure that we're compliant with their rules and regulations. I think we can work through this. I don't see any insurmountable problems, with the exception of having to maybe close the deal with a dollar transaction, just so that's legal tender in New Zealand and doing the balance in crypto. But that shouldn't be an issue.
Okay.
You sell houses and properties today, and you can sell them with assets inside the house as well. You can do asset transfer for fair value of the purchase price. So the mechanisms already exist. The rules and regulations already exist. We can work with those to sort of achieve this outcome. And that's what I'm hoping we can do. I'm hoping we can use this as a proof of concept. And hopefully everybody else can benefit from faster, more efficient transactions.
Love the sound of it. Awesome. Well, I wish you all the best, and to your parents, the vendors, to make this happen. And also, congratulations and thank you as well, if I can add that as well, because obviously if you're blazing the path, other people can do this, which will benefit, and they'll receive the benefits of technology in this space as well. So
hopefully
that's the idea.
That's where we want to go with this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Let's use as the tool using species. That's our primary thing with our big brains and our lack of physicality or claws or anything else. We use tools. That is what separates humanity from most of the other animals that don't really use tools. And I think if we can use our tools to facilitate the things we want to do in our life rather than being obstructions, then I think we're heading in the right direction.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for sharing the story, and all the best for the next steps.
Thanks.
Cheers.